We all want louder, fatter sounds, but traditional compression and saturation can mess with the character of our sounds too much. Compression can squash the life out of them, and saturation can be way too harsh. That's why I made this Ableton rack called NEI. At the core of its processing is JS Inflator, and it's designed to help you get your sounds louder and fatter without boosting their peak level. First, let's demonstrate on a sine wave. And we have this oscilloscope pulled up so we can watch the output as we dial it in. The first step is to turn up the gain until we get hard clipping. That's about where it begins to clip. And now we turn up the effect until we get a desired amount of volume and saturation. And notice that as we turn up the effect, the peak level doesn't change. It's a much gentler and smoother form of saturation, but still manages to add a lot of volume and power. And then for even more dynamic control, there's a clipper on the output. Now let's try it out on some real instruments. First, we'll start with these drums. So we start to hear the hard clipping. That's a little bit too much. Let's go back. And now we'll turn up the effect until we get the desired amount of loudness. You can hear that it adds some crunch and some saturation, but most of the effect is just an increase in the perceived loudness. Then let's control it even more with clipping on the output. Alright, next let's try it out on the synths here. So we can hear that these are pretty clean and pretty tame, but we can change that with NEI. First step, dial in the gain. That's about where I hear it start to clip. Now crank up the effect. I'll just clip that out with just a hair. Then we can make up for what we're taking out with the clipping with the output gain. So we can hear that it goes from being pretty tame to being very bold and very aggressive. Finally, let's try it out on this sub. So this is just a sine wave with some noise layered on it. So now that we have the gain dialed in, now we can turn up the effect without the peak level increasing. So we're getting a lot louder and a lot fatter there. Now then we'll clip it. Then everything that we're taking out with the clipper, we can then put back in with some output gain. So it goes from being a pretty boring sub to being nice and aggressive, nice and trashy. Now let's check out the difference across the entire mix. First I'll play the entire mix with them off, and then when I turn them on, watch how the loudness on the meters jumps way up. Then now I'll turn them on. So we can hear that it makes a big difference in the entire mix. It's making it a lot louder and more professional sounding, but without adding too much audible distortion, and also without needing to excessively compress it. If you like what you hear, this will be available as a free download in the description. All you'll need is JS Inflator, which is free, and I'll also link to that. Peace out.